Hi everyone and welcome to the new video. The radiation is everywhere. Not only some minerals or rocks can be naturally radioactive, a lot of vintage objects were made in the era where the radiation was not fully understood, and these objects can be radioactive as well. Not so long time ago I had a vacation in London, and do you know what real nerds take to the vacation? Yeah, right, a radiation detector. Just for fun I decided to see how many radioactive artifacts I can find in London. Now I am in the city center, and as we can see it's the classical British weather here, and let's see how it's going. As viewers can guess, my first checkpoint here is HMS Belfast, a British ship that was built in 1930s, so it is a very good candidate to find something radioactive, and probably you know why. Since the beginning of the 20th century, the radium was discovered, and the radium lume was glowing in the dark, and it was popular at that time, and it was like magic, I can imagine. At that time there were no LEDs, and the radium paint was very popular for clocks, watches, for naval instruments, for aviation instruments, and so on. It was useful because the radium lume was glowing in the dark, and by the way, tritium is still used in some military watches today. Radium clocks and watches were produced in the huge amounts, and as we will see later, it's easy to find them on a thrift store or in a flea market. But now let's go to visit the ship. However, it turned out that there is a problem. The filming inside the ship is not allowed. I visited the ship myself and I did the measurements with the radiation detector. I have a lot of footage, but alas I cannot show it. But I still can answer the question, is it possible to find something radioactive here? Interestingly, the answer is no. I'm pretty sure that when the ship was made, the radium paint was used. I cannot show the interiors of the ship, so I asked AI to generate an image of how it was looking. But nowadays I did the measurements and there are no radiation anymore. Probably all the ship electronics was renovated. There are a lot of meters and dials in the engine rooms as well. And I asked AI to generate the image how it was looking before, but nowadays they are also not radioactive. Anyway, HMS Belfast is a nice museum. It's a large ship, it has about 9 decks, so I encourage you to visit it when you will be in London. There are interesting artifacts there, like an old vintage X-ray machine. And now let's go and see the next place, the Natural History Museum. Now I'm near the Natural History Museum. It is a beautiful building made in the 19th century. And what radioactive objects can we find here? Well, there are actually two types of them. First, ancient fossils can be naturally radioactive. The well-known examples are megalodon teeth or dinosaur skeletons. If this skeleton was in the area that contains thorium or uranium, the bones can be radioactive as well. And second, in the minerals section, there may be some natural minerals like thorium or uraninite or something like this. Let's go inside and see it. Interestingly, it turned out that filming in the museum cost about £6,000, which is obviously far beyond the budget of this video, which I did on the vacation and it is practically the hobby project. Instead, I will show the photos from my phone and I will explain what did I see here. Let's get into it. First, I did measurements of the skeletons and it turned out that they are not radioactive. I was actually surprised why. I asked Google AI this question and I got this answer you can see on the screen. AI explained me that most of skeletons in the museum are actually replicas. The reason behind is that the real skeletons are brittle and the museum don't want to put it in public. And obviously, if it is a replica, it is not radioactive at all. We know that AI can make mistakes, but these objects are indeed not radioactive, so I believe it's really true. And then I asked the second question, is there any real skeleton there? And the answer was also interesting. And AI explained me that there is one real skeleton there called Saphides Steganosaurus. Probably I missed it during my measurement, so if you will be in the museum in London, I encourage you to test this one. But anyway, it was interesting to see it, and I learned something new about the museums and the dinosaurs. And now let's check the minerals. As for the radioactive minerals, it was different. First, I have found a lot of them. Lots of minerals are naturally radioactive. They are officially called NORM, naturally occurring radioactive materials. As we can see on the photos, the radiation can be detected. Alas, some minerals in the museum, as we can see in the picture, are not displayed anymore, as they write for safety reason, but technically I don't agree with that. There is no danger in these minerals, the high radiation is only on the surface, and if there is a concern about the radon gas, They can just put the mineral in the glass jar and the problem will be solved. The goal of the museum is also to educate visitors. These minerals are not secret, it's part of nature. People should know how do they look. But anyway, it's their decision. Anyway, the museum has a large and interesting collection, and I encourage viewers to visit it as well. It's also fun to do it with the radiation detector. And now let's find some handmade objects in London. And to do this, I will visit another museum, which is located on the same street, and it is like 5 minutes walk. It is the Victoria and Albert Museum. Victoria and Albert Museum is mostly dedicated to art and culture. Can we find something radioactive there? Indeed we can. And the reason for that is actually interesting. Before the radiation was discovered, uranium was widely used in glass and ceramics. And the reason for that was simple: uranium glass just looks nice. It glows not only in the UV light but also in the sunlight. And lots of beautiful objects were made from the uranium glass or uranium glaze. Even in the antique stores they can be crazy expensive, like more than $1,000 US. And such objects we can also find in the museum as well. First I tried to find it myself, but the museum's collection is pretty large and practically I was not able to find anything. But later it turned out that I did it wrong, and I will show now how to do it correctly. So let's say you want to find a uranium glass object in the Victoria and Albert Museum. And what I need to do now, I need to go to the top of the page and there is a menu collections there. And here I can explore the collections and I can use search. For example, I can type the word uranium. And here we can see all available objects in the collection. And this is the classical uranium glass object, as we can see. And this is another one. As we can see, there are two options here. The object can be on display. As we can see, it's a classical uranium glass. It should glow in the UV light as well, so you may take a UV flashlight with you. And here you can see a description, and here you can see the room where it is located. I think if I click it, I can see where it is. And let's check another one. As we can see, this object is not available, but it can be viewed by appointment. I never tried it myself, but maybe you can do this. And as we can see, you can make an appointment to see it. And this is a cool object made in the 19th century. And this is the example of the uranium glaze. As we can see, it is also available by appointment. And this is the classical color of the uranium glaze. And we know that uranium glaze was popular in the 20s or 30s. And as we can see, it is interesting. We can also see a description that the glaze includes uranium, so it is slightly radioactive. As an example, I can show the Fiesta-ware object I have. And as we can see, the radiation is really detectable. And we can also see that the uranium glass glows in the UV light. So as you can see, now you know how to search for the collection and how to find the objects you want. I was not able to find it in the museum because the collection is huge. You probably will be more lucky. For example, this object is on display. But anyway, the museums are cool. But now let's visit some places in London where we can buy something. Let's visit the Portobello Market. The Portobello Market is located on the street called Portobello Road, and actually it's pretty long. Mostly this market is open on Saturdays. At this time all shops are opened and it is also really crowded. I was there on Monday, so there were not so many activities. As a reminder, I am looking for radioactive artifacts, and this is the first radioactive watch. The shop is closed, but funny enough, the radiation is detectable through the glass. As I mentioned before, radium paint was used in watches, clocks, instruments and so on. Originally the radium lume was glowing in the dark. It's not glowing anymore, but the watch is still radioactive. However, these objects are usually not dangerous if they are in the good shape. Obviously not all vintage watches are radioactive. I'm going to make a separate video about that, stay tuned. By the way, sorry for the flickering. Apparently sailors using cheap LED lights that flicker a lot. Here we can also see a lot of glass objects. They look nice, but interestingly I don't see uranium glass here. And here is another good choice of vintage watches. As we can see, some of them are radioactive. And interesting that the radiation level is also different. Every manufacturer had its own recipe of the lume, so the amount of radium could strongly vary. Watch like this is in a bad shape, and I wouldn't recommend to buy it. In general, this level of radiation is not really dangerous, but the radium dust can be. And this is an interesting object. I think this is a ship's compass. There are actually two of them. Instruments like this were probably used on the HMS Belfast. You must be careful if the radium paint was made on the top surface of the object. It shouldn't be scratched. It's more safe if it is inside the glass. And as we can see, it is pretty radioactive. It's interesting to see at the top of the box. There is a date of 16 December 1941, beginning of the World War II era. This was a nice shop, and in this shop I bought this object, a marching compass made in World War I, so it's more than 100 years old. It is an interesting historical artifact, and it is also a good test source for the radiation detector, and I already used it in some of my tests. And now let's go forward. Now I'm in the city center again. And by the way, if you don't want to buy any radioactive artifacts, the granite is naturally radioactive, so you can easily test your radiation detector with it. As you can see, I put the detector on the surface and the values are increasing, which is interesting to see. And now I will give a small riddle to the viewers. This is another museum, and as you can guess, it is also dedicated to the war. And here is the object inside, and as you can see, it is radioactive. And as we can see, this dial is not only radioactive, it also nicely glows in the UV light. So what is it and where it is located? Write in the comments below, I will be curious to see your answers. And maybe next time in London you can find it yourself. And that is it for this video, thanks for watching. Soon I am going to visit Paris. Stay tuned and press like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. You are also welcome to visit my Patreon page, the support helps me to buy things like this compass for testing. I had more footage to show and this video could be longer. Alas, in many museums filming is legally not allowed. Anyway, I hope you learned something new. Thanks for watching and see you next time.